100 Facts About Ancient Meditation Practices. Welcome. Take a deep breath and let yourself settle in. Tonight, we're embarking on a peaceful journey through time, exploring 100 fascinating facts about ancient meditation practices from across the world. From the caves of the Himalayas to the monasteries of ancient China, from the deserts of Egypt to the forests of Japan, we'll discover the origins of meditation, the great masters who devoted their lives to practice, the sacred spaces where consciousness was explored, and the timeless techniques that have transformed human awareness for over 5,000 years. This video is designed to help you relax, learn, and gently drift off to sleep. The facts are woven together in a soothing narrative, accompanied by calming visuals and peaceful music. If you enjoy this journey into ancient wisdom, please take a moment to like this video. It helps others discover these calming stories. And if you'd like to continue listening to more relaxing content like this, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. Now, find a comfortable position, let your shoulders drop, and allow yourself to be carried back through the centuries, to a time when seekers of peace first sat in stillness and discovered the profound depths of human consciousness. Let's begin. Close your eyes and let us journey back through time, back beyond the noise of modern life, back to the very beginning of humanity's quest for inner peace. Fact 1. The practice of meditation is far more ancient than most people realize. Archaeological evidence suggests that meditation may have been practiced as early as 5000 to 3500 BCE, making it one of humanity's oldest spiritual practices. Long before written language could capture its techniques, our ancestors were already discovering the profound stillness that exists within. Imagine the world then, a world lit only by fire and starlight. In those quiet moments, between the demands of survival, ancient humans began to notice something extraordinary. When they sat in stillness, when they watched their breath, when they gazed into flames or listened to the rhythm of their own heartbeat, something shifted. A doorway opened within. Fact 2. The earliest written records of meditation come from the Vedic texts of ancient India, dating back to around 1500 BCE. These sacred scriptures, known as the Vedas, describe meditation techniques and the practice of dhyana, which means focused contemplation. The ancient sages who composed these texts understood that the mind, like a wild river, could be gently guided toward a profound ocean of peace. In the forests of ancient India, beneath the canopy of sacred fig trees, these early practitioners would sit. Their robes simple, their possessions few. They discovered that by turning their attention inward, they could access states of consciousness that transcended ordinary experience. They called these states samadhi, a word that means absorption or becoming one with the object of meditation. Fact 3. Meditation was not born in just one place. Independently, ancient China was developing its own meditation practices through Taoism around 600 to 500 BCE. Taoist meditation emphasized harmony with nature, visualization of energy flowing through the body, and the cultivation of qi or life force. These practices were woven into the very fabric of Chinese philosophy and medicine. Picture the misty mountains of ancient China, where Taoist hermits would retreat to caves and simple dwellings. There, they would practice zhuowang, which translates as sitting and forgetting, a meditation technique where one releases all thoughts and concepts, allowing the mind to return to its natural state, as clear and flowing as mountain water. Fact 4. Around the same time, in 500 BCE, Siddhartha Gautama, who would become known as the Buddha, achieved enlightenment while meditating under a Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya, India. His meditation practice, which he refined over many years, became the foundation for Buddhist meditation techniques that would eventually spread across Asia and, much later, to the entire world. The Buddha's journey is one of remarkable dedication. After years of extreme asceticism failed to bring him peace, he sat beneath that tree and vowed not to rise until he understood the nature of suffering and the path to liberation. For 49 days, he sat in deep meditation, moving through layers of consciousness, facing his fears, his desires, and ultimately, discovering a profound truth about the nature of existence itself. Fact 5. Buddhist meditation introduced the practice of anapanasati, or mindfulness of breathing, a technique that remains one of the most widely practiced forms of meditation today. This simple yet profound practice involves observing the natural rhythm of the breath without trying to control it, using it as an anchor for awareness in the present moment. The breath, the Buddha taught, is always with us. It requires no special equipment, no sacred space. Wherever we are, whatever we're doing, the breath is there, a faithful companion, rising and falling like gentle waves upon a shore. By bringing our full attention to this simple act of breathing, we begin to cultivate a quality of presence that transforms our entire experience of life. Fact 6. In ancient Egypt, around 3000 BCE, priests practiced meditation-like techniques in temples dedicated to various deities. These practices often involved chanting, visualization, and long periods of stillness in sacred chambers. The Egyptians believed these practices allowed them to commune with the divine and access hidden wisdom. Within the cool stone walls of Egyptian temples, priests would sit in darkness before dawn, preparing their minds through hours of meditative practice. They would visualize sacred symbols, recite prayers in rhythmic repetitions, and seek visions of the gods. These practices were not separate from their daily duties but were considered essential preparation for serving as intermediaries between the human and divine realms. Fact 7. The ancient practice of loving-kindness meditation, or metta in Pali, emerged from early Buddhist traditions. This practice involves systematically cultivating feelings of goodwill, first toward oneself, then toward loved ones, then neutral people, then difficult people, and finally toward all beings everywhere. It represents one of humanity's earliest systematic approaches to cultivating compassion. Imagine ancient monks, sitting in the gentle warmth of a meditation hall, softly repeating phrases of kindness. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be safe. May I live with ease. And then extending these same wishes outward, like ripples spreading across a still pond, encompassing wider and wider circles of life. This practice acknowledged a profound truth, that our capacity for love and compassion is not fixed, but can be cultivated, expanded, deepened through patient, gentle practice. Fact 8. In ancient Japan, Shinto priests practiced Chinkon, a form of meditation aimed at calming the spirit and achieving inner peace. This practice often took place in nature, particularly near waterfalls, where the sound of rushing water helped practitioners enter deeper states of meditation. The Japanese understanding was that nature itself could serve as both teacher and sanctuary for meditation practice. These early Japanese practitioners would stand beneath waterfalls, the cold water cascading over their bodies, teaching them to remain present and calm even in the midst of intense sensation. Others would sit in forests, simply listening, to wind through bamboo, to the calls of birds, to the rustling of leaves. They understood that meditation was not always about silence, but about a quality of deep, receptive listening. Fact 9. Ancient meditation practices often emphasized posture, with the lotus position, sitting cross-legged with each foot resting on the opposite thigh, becoming perhaps the most iconic meditation posture. This position, which appears in artwork and sculptures across Asia dating back thousands of years, was believed to create stability in both body and mind, grounding the practitioner's energy while keeping the spine upright and alert. The ancient masters understood something profound about the relationship between body and mind. They knew that the way we hold our bodies influences the quality of our consciousness. A slouched posture leads to restlessness, but a posture that is both relaxed and upright, both grounded and open, naturally supports a mind that is clear, calm, and aware. As we pause here in our journey through ancient meditation practices, take a moment to notice your own breath rising and falling, connecting you to these ancient practitioners across thousands of years. The same breath, the same awareness, the same eternal now. We have only just begun our exploration of this vast and beautiful tradition. Let us continue our journey deeper into the ancient world of meditation, into the monasteries, the caves, the sacred halls where human beings dedicated their entire lives to exploring the landscape of consciousness. Fact 10. The first Buddhist monasteries emerged around 400 BCE, creating communities entirely devoted to meditation practice. These sanghas, or spiritual communities, established daily routines that revolved around meditation sessions in the early morning, midday, and evening. This monastic structure preserved and refined meditation techniques for over 2,500 years. Imagine awakening before dawn in one of these ancient monasteries. The air is cool and still. A bell sounds, its tone pure and clear, rippling through the darkness. Monks rise from their sleeping mats, wrap themselves in robes the color of earth and saffron, and walk in silent procession to the meditation hall. No words are spoken. The only sound is the soft whisper of bare feet on stone, and the gentle rhythm of breathing. Fact 11. Ancient meditation masters discovered that different times of day affected the quality of meditation. The period between 3 and 6 a.m., known in Sanskrit as Brahma Muhurta or the Creator's Hour, was considered especially conducive to deep meditation. The stillness of the pre-dawn world, they found, mirrored and supported inner stillness. In this sacred hour, when the world hovers between darkness and light, the mind is naturally more calm, more receptive. The busyness of the day has not yet begun. Dreams have released their hold, but full waking consciousness has not yet engaged. In this liminal space, meditation becomes effortless, like slipping into a warm pool of clear water. Fact 12. Walking meditation, or kinhin in Japanese Zen Buddhism, emerged as an important complement to sitting meditation. Ancient practitioners discovered that meditation need not be confined to stillness, that by moving slowly and deliberately, maintaining full awareness of each step, they could cultivate the same quality of presence while in motion. Picture a line of monks walking in a slow, deliberate circle through a meditation garden. Each step is taken with complete attention. The lifting of the foot, the movement through air, the gentle placement on earth. One step, one breath. The body becomes a moving prayer, a meditation in motion. This practice taught that awareness could extend beyond the cushion, into every activity of daily life. Fact 13. The ancient practice of Trataka, or steady gazing, was developed in India as a powerful concentration technique. Practitioners would gaze without blinking at a single point, often a candle flame, a yantra, sacred geometric pattern, or a small object, training the mind to become perfectly one-pointed and still. In dimly lit caves and meditation halls, practitioners would place a small oil lamp at eye level. They would soften their gaze and look steadily at the flame, not straining, not forcing, but with gentle, unwavering attention. As the eyes began to water, they would close them and observe the afterimage of the flame in the darkness behind the eyelids. This practice, they discovered, had the power to quiet mental chatter and reveal deeper layers of consciousness. Fact 14. Ancient Chinese Taoist meditators developed the inner smile meditation, a practice of directing feelings of warmth and kindness to one's own internal organs. They believed that each organ held specific emotions and that smiling inwardly to each organ could promote both physical health and emotional balance. The Taoist sages understood the body as a miniature universe, with each organ playing a sacred role. In meditation, they would journey through this inner landscape, greeting the heart with gratitude, blessing the lungs with peace, thanking the liver for its work of purification. This was not mere visualization but a profound practice of befriending one's own physical form, acknowledging the miracle of the body that carries us through life. Fact 15. The ancient practice of mantra meditation dates back over 3,000 years to the Vedic traditions of India. A mantra, a sacred sound, word, or phrase, would be repeated silently or aloud, sometimes thousands of times in a single meditation session. The repetition served to occupy the surface mind while allowing deeper awareness to emerge. The Sanskrit word mantra means instrument of thought or that which protects the mind. Ancient practitioners discovered that certain sounds, when repeated with devotion and concentration, created specific vibrations in the body and mind. The mantra becomes like a boat carrying the meditator across the river of thoughts toward the far shore of pure awareness. Some of the most ancient mantras are simply seed sounds, om, ah, hum, primordial vibrations that were believed to reflect the fundamental frequencies of existence itself. Fact 16. In ancient Greece, philosophers of the Pythagorean school practiced a form of meditation they called theoria, meaning contemplation or reflection. Around 500 BCE, these practitioners would engage in extended periods of silent contemplation, often focusing on mathematical principles and cosmic harmony, believing that deep reflection could reveal universal truths. Picture the ancient Greek philosophers in their schools, sitting in circular rooms designed with perfect acoustic properties. They understood that meditation was not separate from philosophy but was its very essence, the practice of turning the mind toward fundamental questions about existence, truth, and beauty. Their contemplative practices combined intellectual rigor with meditative stillness, creating a unique bridge between thought and transcendence. Fact 17. The practice of body scanning, which involves systematically moving awareness through different parts of the body, has ancient roots in Buddhist Vipassana meditation, particularly in the practice called Kayagata Sati, or mindfulness of the body. This technique, dating back over 2,000 years, taught practitioners to develop intimate awareness of physical sensations without judgment or reaction. Ancient meditators would lie or sit in stillness and begin a slow journey of awareness through their body, starting perhaps with the crown of the head, gradually moving down through the face, neck, shoulders, arms, hands, fingers. The instruction was simple but profound. Merely observe whatever sensations arise. Heat or coolness, tension or ease, tingling, pressure, or emptiness. No sensation is bad or good. All are simply noticed, acknowledged, and released, like clouds drifting across an open sky. Fact 18. Ancient meditation caves and hermitages were often deliberately positioned in remote, challenging locations, high in mountains, deep in forests, or in desert wilderness. The 5th century CE saw the establishment of the Ajanta caves in India and the cave monasteries of Cappadocia in Turkey. These remote locations were chosen intentionally, as ancient teachers understood that solitude and simplicity naturally supported deep meditation practice. Imagine climbing a narrow mountain path, your breath steady with exertion, until you reach a small cave carved into the cliff face. Inside, the space is simple: bare rock walls, perhaps a stone platform for sitting, a small opening that frames a view of distant peaks. Here, far from the distractions of society, far from the demands of daily life, meditation becomes not just a practice but a way of being. The hermits who lived in such places would sometimes spend years in solitary retreat, their days structured around long meditation sessions, simple meals, and the slow, mindful completion of basic tasks. They discovered that in simplicity and solitude, the mind naturally settles, like sediment drifting to the bottom of a still pond, revealing the crystal-clear water of awareness. And so we see how meditation spread and evolved across continents and centuries, each culture adding its own wisdom, its own techniques, its own understanding of this profound practice. Yet at the heart of all these traditions lies the same essential discovery, that within each of us exists a space of peace, a wellspring of awareness that is always present, always accessible, always waiting to be rediscovered. As we rest here for a moment, perhaps you can sense your own connection to this ancient lineage, thousands of years of practitioners, all seeking the same timeless truth. Our journey through ancient meditation now takes us to the great teachers, the profound techniques, and the subtle understandings that transformed meditation from simple practice into a complete path of awakening. Fact 19. Around 150 CE, the Buddhist master Nagarjuna wrote extensively about meditation and emptiness, establishing what would become the Madhyaka school of Buddhist philosophy. His teachings emphasized that through meditation, one could directly perceive the empty, interconnected nature of all phenomena, that nothing exists in isolation, but everything arises in dependence upon everything else. Nagarjuna taught that our ordinary way of seeing the world creates suffering because we perceive things as solid, separate, and permanent. But in deep meditation, he explained, we can experience reality as it truly is, fluid, interconnected, more like music than like objects. Each note arising from silence, sustained briefly, then dissolving back into silence, yet somehow creating a beautiful whole. This insight, he taught, brings profound freedom. Fact 20. The ancient practice of vipassana, or insight meditation, emerged from the Theravada Buddhist tradition around the 1st century BCE. Unlike concentration practices that focus on a single object, vipassana involves observing all phenomena that arise in awareness, thoughts, sensations, emotions, with equanimity and clear seeing. The goal is not to change experience, but to see it with such clarity that wisdom naturally arises. Imagine sitting in meditation, no longer trying to control your experience, no longer pushing away discomfort or grasping at pleasant sensations. Instead, you become like a scientist of your own consciousness, noting with gentle curiosity, thinking, feeling, hearing, breathing. Each moment observed with fresh eyes, as if for the first time. Ancient vipassana masters discovered that this quality of bare attention, maintained consistently, gradually dissolves the illusions that cause suffering. Fact 21. In ancient Tibet, meditation practices became deeply integrated with indigenous Bon shamanic traditions, creating unique approaches such as chod, or cutting through. This practice, developed around the 11th century CE by the female master Makig Labdrön, involved meditating in frightening places like charnel grounds while mentally offering one's own body to demons and spirits, a profound practice of cutting through ego and fear. The Tibetan landscape, vast, high, harsh, and beautiful, shaped meditation practice in unique ways. Practitioners would seek out the most challenging environments, cemeteries where bodies were left for sky burial, dark caves, storm-swept mountain passes. There, sitting alone through the long night, they would face their deepest fears. But rather than fleeing, they would transform fear itself into an offering, discovering that the demons we fear most are ultimately empty, powerless projections of our own mind. Fact 22. The use of meditation bells and singing bowls dates back over 3,000 years in Tibetan and Himalayan cultures. These instruments, made from special alloys of metals, were struck or played at the beginning and end of meditation sessions. The pure, sustained tones were believed to help quiet the mind and mark the transition between ordinary consciousness and meditative awareness. Listen, for a moment, to the imagined sound of an ancient singing bowl. A deep, resonant tone that seems to contain many frequencies at once, that seems to vibrate not just in the air but in the bones, in the heart, in some deep place within consciousness itself. The sound swells, sustains, then slowly fades, becoming quieter and quieter until you cannot tell if you're still hearing it or only remembering it, or if perhaps it continues beyond the threshold of hearing. Ancient practitioners understood that sound could be a bridge, a doorway, a vehicle carrying awareness from the realm of thoughts into the space of pure presence. Fact 23. Zen Buddhism, which emerged in China around the 6th century CE as Chan Buddhism, introduced the practice of Zazen, literally seated meditation. This practice emphasized sitting in stillness with no goal, no striving, simply being present with what is. The famous Zen saying, "just sitting," captured this essence, meditation not as a means to an end, but as a complete expression of awakening itself. In Zen meditation halls, practitioners would sit facing a wall, their backs straight, their eyes half open, gazing softly downward. not meditating to become enlightened, but sitting as the expression of enlightenment itself. The great Zen master Dogen taught that practice and enlightenment are not two separate things, that the very act of sitting in this way, with no gaining idea, no sense of lack, is itself the full expression of Buddha nature. Just sitting, just breathing, complete in this moment. Fact 24. Ancient meditation teachers developed the concept of beginner's mind, approaching each meditation session with freshness and openness, as if meditating for the first time. This teaching recognized that one of the greatest obstacles to deep meditation is the accumulation of expectations, judgments, and fixed ideas about what meditation should be. The ancient masters observed how children approach the world with wonder, how they can find joy in the simplest things, a leaf, a stone, a shadow. They taught that this quality of open, curious, non-judgmental awareness is the very heart of meditation. Not trying to repeat yesterday's experience. Not comparing today's practice to some ideal. Simply showing up, fresh and present, to whatever this moment contains. Fact 25. The practice of koan meditation emerged in Chinese Chan Buddhism around the 9th century CE and was later refined in Japanese Zen. A koan is a paradoxical question or statement, such as "What is the sound of one hand clapping?" given to students to meditate upon. These koans were designed to exhaust the logical, conceptual mind, creating an opening for direct, intuitive insight. Imagine a monk sitting with a koan for months, even years, day after day, returning to the question, not trying to solve it intellectually, not looking for a clever answer, but holding it in awareness like holding a great question mark in the heart. The koan becomes a kind of spiritual sandpaper, wearing away the layers of conceptual thinking, gradually revealing what lies beneath, a direct knowing that cannot be captured in words, only experienced. Fact 26. Ancient forest monasteries in Thailand and Sri Lanka preserved the tradition of forest meditation, where monks would live in simple huts scattered through the wilderness, practicing meditation in harmony with nature. These traditions, dating back to the time of the Buddha, emphasized simplicity, solitude, and the use of natural environments to support practice. In the dappled shade of ancient forests, monks would build small platforms in trees or tiny huts of woven leaves and branches. They would sleep little, eat one meal a day, and spend the remaining hours in walking and sitting meditation. The forest became their teacher, the way trees stood tall yet flexible in storms, the way everything arose and passed away in endless cycles, the profound silence broken only by birdsong and wind. They learned to read the book of nature, finding in its pages the same truths they discovered in meditation. Fact 27. The ancient practice of death contemplation or maranasati was considered essential in early Buddhist meditation. Monks would regularly meditate on the certainty of death, sometimes in charnel grounds where they could observe the stages of bodily decay. Far from being morbid, this practice was seen as a way to cultivate urgency in practice and deep appreciation for the preciousness of each moment. Ancient meditation masters taught that remembering death is a gift, not a burden. When we truly understand that this life is brief and uncertain, that this very breath might be our last, everything becomes vivid, precious, and immediate. The petty concerns that usually occupy the mind reveal themselves as trivial. What matters, love, presence, truth, kindness, becomes clear. Death contemplation, they taught, is really life contemplation, a practice of awakening fully to the extraordinary gift of being alive right now, in this very moment. And so the ancient meditation traditions revealed layer upon layer of wisdom, technique upon technique, each one a key to unlock a different door of consciousness. Yet all of them pointing to the same truth, that peace is not something to be achieved in the future, but something to be discovered right here, right now, in the eternal present moment. Let yourself rest in this knowing, this ancient knowing that lives in you still. As meditation practices matured and deepened across the ancient world, they became more refined, more subtle, revealing the extraordinary sophistication of these early explorers of consciousness. Fact 28. The use of mudras, symbolic hand gestures, in meditation dates back over 2,000 years in Hindu and Buddhist traditions. Each mudra was believed to direct energy flow in specific ways within the body. The dhyana mudra, with hands resting in the lap one atop the other, was specifically designed to support deep meditative absorption by creating a closed circuit of energy. Picture ancient practitioners sitting in meditation, their hands arranged with exquisite precision. The right hand resting in the left, both palms facing upward, thumbs touching lightly to form a gentle oval, like a vessel to hold the boundless awareness that arises in meditation. These gestures were not mere symbolism but represented a sophisticated understanding of the body's subtle energy channels. Each finger, they taught, connects to different elements and qualities of consciousness. Through mudras, meditation becomes a practice involving not just the mind, but the whole body in harmonious participation. Fact 29. Sufi mystics of Islam, beginning around the 8th century CE, developed their own profound meditation practices, including muraqabah, meaning to watch over or to take care of. This practice involved sitting in meditation while focusing on the heart center, often accompanied by the remembrance of divine names. Sufis taught that the heart is the seat of spiritual consciousness. In the deserts and cities of the Islamic world, Sufi meditators would gather in circles, their practice infused with poetry and longing for union with the divine. They understood meditation as a practice of the heart more than of the mind. Your heart is a polished mirror, taught the great Sufi master Rumi. You must wipe it clean of the veil of dust that has gathered upon it, because it is destined to reflect the light of divine secrets. In meditation, they practiced this polishing, sitting in stillness as an act of devotion, of listening for the voice of the beloved. Fact 30. Christian desert fathers and mothers, beginning in the 3rd century CE, retreated to the Egyptian desert to practice hesychasm, a tradition of contemplative prayer and meditation. They would repeat simple prayers, such as the Jesus Prayer, thousands of times while sitting in stillness, seeking what they called inner stillness or hesychia. Imagine the vast, silent desert, sand and stone stretching to every horizon, the sky impossibly blue, the heat shimmering in waves. Here, early Christian contemplatives built simple cells of mud brick or found shelter in caves. They rose before dawn, and throughout the day and night, they would sit and breathe and pray, "Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me." The prayer synchronized with breath, with heartbeat, until the prayer seemed to pray itself. In this practice, they sought not visions or experiences, but a profound, loving silence, a state they described as standing consciously in the presence of God. Fact 31. The ancient practice of pranayama, or breath control, developed in India around 800 to 500 BCE as recorded in the early Upanishads. These practices involved various techniques of regulating the breath, lengthening it, holding it, altering the rhythm between inhalation and exhalation. Ancient yogis discovered that by changing the breath, they could directly influence states of consciousness. The ancient sages observed that breath is the bridge between body and mind, between conscious and unconscious, between voluntary and involuntary. They mapped the subtle effects of different breathing patterns with scientific precision. A rapid breath energizes and stimulates. A slow, deep breath calms and grounds. Breath held after inhalation creates a quality of fullness and expansion. Breath held after exhalation creates a quality of emptiness and surrender. Through pranayama, meditation practitioners learned to play this instrument of breath with the skill of master musicians. Fact 32. In Kashmir Shaivism, which flourished between the 8th and 12th centuries CE in northern India, meditation masters taught the practice of recognizing one's true nature as pure consciousness itself. Unlike practices focused on quieting the mind, this tradition emphasized recognizing that awareness is already perfect, already free, already complete. It need only be recognized. The Kashmir Shaivite masters taught a radical truth. You are not a small self trying to reach some distant enlightenment. You are, right now, in this very moment, the infinite awareness in which all experience arises. Meditation, from this perspective, is not about changing or improving yourself, but about recognizing what you have always been. They used the metaphor of space. You cannot fill space or empty it, make it better or worse. Space simply is, all-pervading, unchanging. Your true nature, they taught, is like this space, pure, open awareness that has never been touched or stained by any experience. Fact 33. The practice of japa, repetitive recitation of sacred names or mantras using prayer beads, emerged in ancient India and spread across Asia. Malas, strings of 108 beads, were used to count repetitions, keeping the fingers occupied while the mind could settle into the rhythm and vibration of the sacred sound. This practice understood that the body's small, repetitive movements could support the mind's journey inward. Feel the smooth wood or seed beads moving one by one through your fingers. Each bead a moment, a breath, a repetition of the sacred sound. The hand moves, the lips whisper or remain still, and beneath this gentle activity, something vast and quiet begins to open. Ancient practitioners would complete multiple malas in a single sitting, thousands of repetitions, allowing the mantra to penetrate deeper and deeper, beyond words, beyond meaning, into the pure vibration of consciousness itself. The mala becomes a rosary of moments, each bead a doorway into presence. Fact 34. Ancient meditation traditions recognized different personality types and taught that different people need different meditation approaches. The Buddhist tradition identified 6 types of temperament and prescribed specific meditation practices for each. Those with tendency toward anger were given loving-kindness practices. Those prone to distraction were given breath meditation. Those caught in desire were taught contemplation of impermanence. The ancient teachers were not rigid or dogmatic, but deeply practical and compassionate. They understood that we each carry different conditioning, different struggles, different doorways into awakening. A meditation practice that unlocks one person's heart might leave another feeling frustrated or distant. And so they tailored their teachings, like skilled physicians prescribing different medicines for different ailments. The goal was not to force everyone through the same door, but to help each person find the door that opens most easily for them. Fact 35. The transmission of meditation teachings in ancient times was primarily oral and experimental, passed directly from teacher to student through years of apprenticeship. Written texts were considered supports, but the essence of meditation was understood to be something that could only be transmitted through direct relationship, practice, and lived experience. In ancient meditation traditions, becoming a student meant entering into a sacred relationship. You would live near your teacher, perhaps for many years. You would observe how they walked, ate, spoke, related to others. You would practice exactly as they instructed, even when you didn't understand why. The teachings were not primarily in words but in presence, in the subtle transmission that happens when two consciousness meet in depth. The teacher could see what you couldn't see in yourself, could guide you through obstacles, could recognize when you were ready for deeper practices. This relationship, teacher and student meeting in the context of meditation practice, was itself considered a meditation. Fact 36. Ancient meditation masters understood that meditation was not separate from daily life but should infuse all activities. The concept of meditation in action, particularly emphasized in Zen and Tibetan Buddhist traditions, taught that every activity, eating, walking, working, speaking, could be performed with the same quality of presence cultivated in formal sitting practice. A Zen saying captures this understanding: before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. The activities remain the same, but the quality of presence within them is transformed. Ancient monasteries structured daily life to support this integration. Formal meditation periods alternated with periods of mindful work. Meals were eaten in silence, with full attention. Every task, from sweeping floors to tending gardens, became an opportunity to practice presence. The ultimate fruit of meditation, they taught, is not transcendence of the world but the transformation of how we meet each moment of ordinary life. And so we see that ancient meditation was never about escaping life, but about entering more deeply into life. Not about reaching some distant shore, but about discovering that we have never left home. The shore we seek is the ground beneath our feet. The peace we long for is the silence between our thoughts. Rest here, in this moment, in this breath, connected to all those who have ever sat in meditation, across all times, all places. Sacred spaces and architecture. Let us now step into the sacred spaces where ancient meditation was practiced, the halls and gardens, the mountains and caves, each one designed with profound wisdom to support the journey inward. Fact 37. The design of ancient meditation halls was never arbitrary but reflected deep understanding of how space affects consciousness. Many halls were built in perfect squares or circles, the square representing earth and stability, the circle representing heaven and infinity. These geometric forms were believed to create a container for practice, a sacred geometry that supported the mind's natural settling. Walk with me into one of these ancient halls. Feel how the proportions create a sense of harmony. The ceiling neither too high nor too low. The space neither cramped nor vast. Everything measured with precision, yet the effect is not one of rigidity but of natural balance. The architects understood that we are affected by the spaces we inhabit, that our consciousness responds to proportion, to light, to form. They built meditation halls as instruments, as technologies of transformation, where the space itself became a teacher. Fact 38. Ancient builders positioned meditation halls with exquisite attention to natural light. Windows and openings were carefully oriented to capture the first rays of dawn, understanding that the quality of light profoundly affects meditation. In many Buddhist temples, the main meditation hall faces east, so that as monks complete their pre-dawn practice, they can witness the sun's first light entering the space. Imagine sitting in darkness before dawn, your breath steady, your mind clear. And then, gradually, almost imperceptibly at first, the darkness begins to soften. A gentle grey light appears, then hints of gold, then suddenly a shaft of pure sunlight streams through the eastern window, illuminating particles of dust floating in the air like stars. The ancient architects knew this moment. The transition from darkness to light mirrors the journey of meditation itself, from confusion to clarity, from ignorance to awakening. They built their spaces to celebrate this daily miracle. Fact 39. The design of meditation cushions, zafus, evolved over centuries of practice. These round cushions, traditionally filled with kapok fiber or buckwheat hulls, were carefully crafted to support proper spinal alignment. Ancient meditation masters understood that if the body is uncomfortable or misaligned, the mind cannot fully settle. The zafu lifts the hips higher than the knees, creating a stable tripod of support and allowing the spine to maintain its natural curve without strain. Each element was considered with care. The firmness of the filling, not so soft that one sinks into it, not so hard that it creates pressure points. The height, adjusted to each practitioner's body proportions. The cover, traditionally sewn from simple cotton, smooth enough not to irritate skin during long sitting, substantial enough to last years of daily use. These cushions were not mere furniture but sacred tools, often passed from teacher to student, carrying the energy of thousands of hours of practice. Fact 40. In Tibetan Buddhist traditions, meditation boxes, small enclosed wooden structures barely large enough for one person to sit, were used for intensive retreat practice. These boxes, sometimes called dark retreat spaces, eliminated all external distractions, creating conditions for profound inward turning. Practitioners might spend months or even years in these tiny spaces, exploring the depths of consciousness. Picture a wooden box, perhaps 5 feet by 5 feet, with walls of thick timber that block all light. A small opening for passing in food and water. Nothing else. In this profound darkness, this total simplicity, the mind has nowhere to go but inward. All the usual distractions, sights, activities, interactions, are removed. What remains? Only consciousness itself, only awareness meeting awareness. The ancient Tibetans understood that sometimes, to find infinite space within, we must accept profound limitation without. Fact 41. Japanese rock gardens, or karasansui, emerged in the 11th century as objects for meditation contemplation. These austere gardens of raked gravel and carefully placed stones were designed to be viewed from the meditation hall, representing mountains rising from the sea or islands in a vast ocean. The act of raking the gravel itself became a form of meditation. Zen monks would rise early and carefully rake the gravel in precise patterns, parallel lines like waves, circular patterns around stones like water flowing around islands. The rake's teeth leaving perfect trails. This repetitive, focused activity calms the mind, creates order from chaos, brings presence to a simple task. Those who sit in the meditation hall and gaze upon the garden see not just rocks and gravel but infinity expressed in finite form, the entire cosmos reflected in a small courtyard. The garden becomes a mirror for the mind. Fact 42. Ancient meditation traditions treated the threshold of a meditation space as sacred. Before entering, practitioners would remove their shoes, symbolically leaving the dust of the world outside. Many would bow or prostrate, acknowledging the sacred nature of the space and cultivating humility. These physical gestures marked the transition from ordinary consciousness to meditative awareness. These threshold rituals were not empty formality but powerful practices of mindfulness. The act of removing shoes becomes an opportunity to pause, to recognize, I am leaving one state and entering another. The bow becomes a moment of reverence, of setting intention, of releasing the concerns carried from outside. By the time you cross the threshold and enter the meditation hall, you have already begun to practice. The space reminds you, here, we practice presence. Here, we practice awakening. Fact 43. The use of incense in meditation spaces dates back thousands of years across Asian cultures. Frankincense, sandalwood, agarwood, and other precious resins and woods were burned not merely for fragrance but as offerings, as purification, and as a way to mark and honor the practice period. The rising smoke was seen as a visible manifestation of prayers and intentions ascending. Close your eyes and imagine the scent of sandalwood smoke slowly filling a meditation hall. The fragrance is subtle, grounding, faintly sweet. It signals to the mind, this is a special time, a sacred time. The ancient practitioners understood that scent bypasses the thinking mind and speaks directly to deeper parts of consciousness. Incense creates an atmosphere, transforms ordinary air into something precious. And as the smoke rises and disperses, it teaches impermanence. Even this beautiful scent arises and passes away, just like all phenomena. Fact 44. Ancient meditation practitioners developed sophisticated time-keeping methods using incense. Incense clocks, particularly popular in China and Japan, consisted of incense formed into coils or sticks that burned at precise rates. A standard incense stick might burn for exactly 1 hour, allowing practitioners to time their meditation sessions without mechanical devices that would disturb the silence. In temples across Asia, these incense clocks would be lit at the beginning of meditation periods. The slow, steady burning became a meditation in itself, watching impermanence in action, seeing time literally turn to ash. Some elaborate incense clocks had small bells or chimes suspended by threads over different points in the incense coil. As the incense burned through each thread, a bell would fall and ring, marking the passage of time with a clear, pure tone. Time measured not in mechanical ticks but in fragrance and flame, in the slow transformation of wood into smoke, into space. Fact 45. Sacred mountains have been meditation sites across cultures for millennia. Mount Kailash in Tibet, considered sacred in 4 religions, has been a pilgrimage destination and meditation site for thousands of years. Mount Wutai in China became home to hundreds of Buddhist monasteries. Mount Hiei in Japan housed the Tendai Buddhist meditation center that trained generations of monks. Mountains, reaching toward heaven, became natural bridges between earth and sky, between human and divine. Ancient meditators were drawn to mountains for many reasons. The thin air and physical challenge of the climb naturally quieted the chattering mind. The vast perspectives, seeing the world from above, created expansive states of awareness. The silence, broken only by wind and bird song. The clouds passing through, teaching impermanence. The rock and stone, teaching stability. To meditate on a mountain was to be held by something ancient, something vast, something that had witnessed countless sunrises and countless seekers. The mountain becomes teacher, sanctuary, and throne, a seat of awakening reaching toward the infinite sky. And so we see that ancient meditation practitioners understood something profound, that our environment shapes our consciousness. They created spaces, with light and stone, with incense and silence, with gardens and mountains, that supported the inward journey. These spaces were not separate from practice but were themselves teachings, invitations, doorways into presence. Feel yourself sitting in one of these sacred spaces, the light just right, the cushion supporting you, the air fragrant with incense, the silence deep and welcoming. The ancient meditation masters did not view the body as separate from the mind, nor as an obstacle to spiritual practice. Instead, they discovered that the body itself is a gateway, a temple, a map of consciousness written in flesh and breath and subtle energy. If you enjoy this journey into ancient wisdom, please take a moment to like this video. It helps others discover these calming stories. And if you'd like to continue listening to more relaxing content like this, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. Fact 46. Ancient yogis of India developed an intricate understanding of chakras, 7 primary energy centers aligned along the spine from its base to the crown of the head. Each chakra, whose name means wheel in Sanskrit, was understood as a vortex of energy associated with specific qualities of consciousness. The root chakra at the spine's base connected to survival and grounding, the crown chakra at the head's top connected to transcendence and unity. Imagine these energy centers as flowers of light within the body, each one a different color, each one spinning gently like a wheel or blooming like a lotus. The ancients taught that these chakras could be blocked or flowing, dull or radiant. Through meditation, breathwork, and intention, practitioners learned to bring awareness to these centers, to feel the subtle energies moving through them. They understood that physical body, emotional experience, and spiritual consciousness were intimately connected, woven together through these spinning wheels of energy. Fact 47. The practice of Kundalini meditation, mentioned in texts dating back to the 8th century CE, focused on awakening a dormant spiritual energy believed to rest coiled like a serpent at the base of the spine. Through specific meditation techniques, breathwork, and sometimes physical practices, this energy would be gradually awakened and guided upward through the chakras, bringing profound transformation and, ultimately, enlightenment. The ancient texts speak of this awakening with both reverence and caution. They describe Kundalini as a tremendous force, like fire, like lightning, like a serpent uncoiling. When awakened prematurely or without proper guidance, it could create intense physical sensations, emotional upheaval, even psychological crisis. But when awakened skillfully, with proper preparation and under a teacher's guidance, it was said to bring extraordinary states of consciousness, spontaneous insights, and a direct experience of one's divine nature. Practitioners would sometimes feel intense heat, see inner lights, experience waves of bliss or energy moving up the spine like liquid fire. Fact 48. In Tibetan Buddhism, advanced practitioners developed Tummo meditation, the practice of generating intense inner heat through specific breathing techniques and visualizations. Monks practicing Tummo in the Himalayan mountains were said to be able to dry wet sheets wrapped around their bodies using only the heat generated through meditation, even in freezing temperatures. Picture a meditation cave high in the Himalayas, snow falling outside, the temperature far below freezing. Inside, a practitioner sits nearly naked on bare stone. Through Tummo practice, visualizing channels of energy, manipulating breath in specific patterns, holding the mind in fierce concentration, the body begins to generate heat. Not ordinary warmth, but an intense inner fire that radiates from the central channel, spreading through the entire body. The ancient Tibetans understood that breath and mind, when harnessed skillfully, could control what we usually consider involuntary functions. The body, they taught, is not a fixed thing but a fluid energy that responds to consciousness. Fact 49. Taoist meditation masters in ancient China mapped what they called the small heavenly circuit, a specific pathway for circulating qi, or life force energy, through the body. This practice involved guiding awareness and breath in a circular pattern, down the front of the body along the conception vessel, up the back along the governing vessel, creating a complete circuit of energy. The Taoists taught that this circulation was happening naturally in the body, but usually in a weak, incomplete way. Through meditation, one could strengthen and complete the circuit, creating a powerful flow of vital energy. Practitioners would sit and use attention like a lantern, illuminating different points along this pathway. First, the lower dantian, the energy center below the navel. Then down to the perineum, up the spine, over the crown of the head, down the front of the face, the throat, the chest, returning to the lower abdomen. Around and around, breath synchronized with awareness, energy flowing like water through a wheel, nourishing body and consciousness. Fact 50. Ancient meditation traditions recognized that diet profoundly affects the quality of meditation. Many traditions emphasized simple, pure, vegetarian foods. Fasting practices were common, with monks often eating only one meal per day before noon. The idea was not punishment but clarity, a light body supports a clear mind. Heavy, complex foods create heaviness in meditation. Simple foods create simplicity in consciousness. The ancient practitioners observed themselves with scientific precision. They noticed that certain foods created sluggishness, others created agitation. Meat and garlic were often avoided, not from moral judgment but from direct observation of their effects on meditation. After eating lightly, the afternoon meditation felt clear and energized. After eating heavily, drowsiness overtook the practice. They learned to eat mindfully, to eat simply, to eat just enough. Food became not separate from practice but part of practice, an offering to the body, fuel for the journey inward. Fact 51. Ancient Tibetan Buddhists developed sophisticated practices of dream yoga, maintaining awareness during sleep and dreams. These practices, recorded in texts over 1,000 years old, taught that if one could remain conscious during dreams, one could recognize that waking life itself has a dreamlike quality. The practices involved specific visualizations before sleep, prayers, and training to recognize the dream state while dreaming. Imagine the moment when, in the middle of a dream, something clicks and you realize, "I am dreaming." Suddenly, the dream continues but your relationship to it transforms. You're no longer lost in the dream but aware within it. Ancient practitioners trained in this recognition, understanding that the boundary between sleeping and waking, between dream and reality, is more fluid than we usually assume. If we can wake up within the dream state, they taught, we can wake up within waking life, recognizing the mind's role in constructing all experience. Fact 52. Many ancient meditation traditions incorporated celibacy or sexual restraint, particularly for monastics. This was not based on viewing sexuality as shameful but on understanding that sexual energy is a powerful force that can be channeled towards spiritual practice. The concept was Jing conservation in Taoism, Brahmacharya in yoga, preserving and transforming vital essence into spiritual vitality. The ancient teachers recognized that sexual energy is life force itself, creative, powerful, demanding. They taught that this energy could move in two directions, outward toward procreation and pleasure, or inward and upward toward spiritual transformation. For those committed to intensive meditation practice, especially during retreats, the conservation of sexual energy was seen as storing fuel for the inner fire. This wasn't suppression but transformation. The same energy that creates life externally could, when redirected, catalyze inner awakening. Fact 53. The physical postures of yoga, asanas, were originally developed not as exercise but as preparation for meditation. The ancient yoga texts describe relatively few postures, all designed to strengthen the body, increase flexibility, and allow practitioners to sit comfortably in meditation for extended periods without pain or distraction. The ancient yogis understood that if the hips are tight, sitting in meditation creates pain. If the back is weak, the spine cannot stay erect. If the body is filled with tension, the mind cannot settle. So they developed specific postures, hip openers, back strengtheners, gentle stretches. The goal was not to perform impressive feats but to prepare the body to be a stable, comfortable vessel for consciousness. After practicing asanas, when they finally sat in meditation, the body could remain still and at ease, allowing attention to turn fully inward. Fact 54. Ancient yogic traditions mapped an intricate system of nadis, subtle energy channels through which prana, or life force, flows through the body. Classical texts describe 72,000 of these channels, with 3 primary nadis running along the spine. These channels, invisible to ordinary perception, were understood through direct meditative experience, mapped over centuries of inner exploration. These ancient explorers of consciousness were like cartographers of an invisible landscape. Through deep meditation, they would sense subtle movements of energy, flows and blockages, pathways and centers. They discovered that when breath is held in specific ways, energy flows differently. That certain visualizations open certain channels. That the left side of the body carries cooling, moon-like energy. The right side carries heating, sun-like energy. The central channel, when fully opened, carries the energy of awakening itself. This was not theory but lived experience, a science of subtle anatomy discovered through thousands of hours sitting in stillness, turning attention inward, learning to perceive what ordinarily goes unnoticed. And so the ancient meditation masters revealed the body not as a prison for the spirit but as a sacred instrument, a living mandala of energy and consciousness. They understood that awakening happens not despite the body but through it, with it, as it. Body and mind, energy and awareness, not two things but one seamless whole. Feel your own body now, this miraculous instrument, breathing, alive, humming with subtle energies, carrying you through this journey of consciousness. Great masters and lineages. Now let us meet some of the extraordinary beings who dedicated their lives to meditation practice, who pushed the boundaries of human consciousness and left teachings that still guide practitioners today, over 1,000 years later. Fact 55. In the 6th century CE, a legendary master named Bodhidharma traveled from India to China, carrying with him the profound meditation practices that would become Chan Buddhism, later known as Zen in Japan. Legend says he arrived at the Shaolin temple and sat facing a wall in meditation for 9 years without moving. Whether literal or symbolic, this story captures the essence of his teaching. Meditation is not about acquiring anything, but about the profound simplicity of just sitting. Picture Bodhidharma, fierce-eyed, bearded, wrapped in simple robes, sitting motionless before a cave wall. 9 years. Through heat and cold, through seasons cycling, through his own thoughts and doubts and the eventual dissolution of thoughts and doubts. He brought to China a direct, uncompromising approach to meditation. No elaborate philosophy, no complex rituals. Just sit. Face the wall. Let everything else fall away. This radical simplicity would transform meditation practice throughout East Asia. Fact 56. In the 8th century CE, Padmanabhava, whose name means lotus-born, brought Buddhism from India to Tibet and established meditation practices that integrated indigenous shamanic traditions with Buddhist philosophy. He taught advanced meditation techniques including Dzogchen, the Great Perfection, which emphasized recognizing the natural, already perfect state of mind. He meditated in caves throughout the Himalayas, and these cave sites became pilgrimage destinations for centuries to come. Padmanabhava was said to have extraordinary powers, the ability to tame demons, to fly, to live for hundreds of years. But beyond the legends lies something more profound. He understood how to adapt meditation teaching to specific cultures, specific landscapes, specific minds. In Tibet's stark, vast beauty, he taught a practice of recognizing awareness itself as primordially pure, unchanging, like the clear sky that remains untouched by passing clouds. His teachings emphasized not gradual purification but sudden recognition of what has always been true. Fact 57. Milarepa, who lived in Tibet during the 11th century, became one of the most beloved meditation masters in Tibetan Buddhism. His life story reads like a spiritual odyssey, from committing terrible acts in his youth to desperately seeking redemption, to spending years meditating alone in mountain caves wearing only a cotton cloth even in winter, to finally achieving complete enlightenment in a single lifetime. His songs of realization, composed spontaneously in meditation, are still chanted today. Imagine Milarepa in his cave, his skin turned green from eating only nettles, his body thin as a skeleton, but his eyes blazing with understanding. He had given up everything, comfort, security, human companionship, for the sake of practice. His teacher had tested him mercilessly, making him build and tear down towers repeatedly before finally giving him meditation instruction. But Milarepa persevered, and in the solitude of mountain caves, through years of intensive practice, he achieved what the tradition calls rainbow body, complete realization. His life became a testament to human possibility, showing that even one who has created great harm can transform completely through dedicated practice. Fact 58. Between 200 BCE and 200 CE, a sage named Patanjali compiled the Yoga Sutras, a text of 196 concise aphorisms that codified yoga philosophy and meditation practice. This text, still studied today, defined yoga as the cessation of the fluctuations of the mind and outlined an eight-limbed path culminating in samadhi, complete meditative absorption. Patanjali's genius was taking oral teachings scattered across India and distilling them into a clear, systematic presentation. Patanjali's Yoga Sutras begin with 3 Sanskrit words that contain the entire teaching: Atha Yoga Anushasanam, now, the teaching of yoga. That word now is crucial. Not yesterday, not tomorrow. Now. This present moment is when practice happens. Patanjali then guides practitioners through ethical foundations, physical practices, breath control, sensory withdrawal, concentration, meditation, and finally absorption. But he always returns to the fundamental insight. Through practice, the mind becomes still, and in that stillness, we recognize our true nature. Fact 59. Huineng, who lived in 7th century China, became the 6th patriarch of Chan Buddhism despite being illiterate. His teaching emphasized sudden enlightenment, the possibility of awakening in an instant through direct seeing of one's true nature. His famous exchange with his teacher involved composing spontaneous poems about Buddha nature. While others spoke of gradually polishing the mirror of the mind, Huineng declared there is no mirror to polish, original nature is already pure. The story tells that Huineng was working in the monastery kitchen, pounding rice, when he heard someone reciting the Diamond Sutra. Instantly, something shifted. Later, when the patriarch was secretly choosing his successor, Huineng wrote, "Fundamentally, not a single thing exists." This revolutionary understanding, that we're not trying to achieve something or become something, but to recognize what we already are, transformed Zen practice. Meditation became not a path of gradual accumulation but a practice of sudden recognition, like a dark room when a lamp is lit. If you enjoy this journey into ancient wisdom about meditation, please take a moment to like this video. And if you'd like to continue listening to more relaxing content like this, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. Now let's continue where we left off. Fact 60. Though much closer to our time, Ramana Maharshi, 1879 to 1950, represents a direct connection to ancient self-inquiry meditation practices. At age 16, he had a spontaneous awakening experience while contemplating death and subsequently spent years in silent meditation in caves near the sacred mountain Arunachala in South India. His teaching method was deceptively simple: who am I? He taught practitioners to turn this question inward, not seeking conceptual answers but investigating the very sense of self. Ramana would sit in silence for hours, sometimes days, barely moving. Seekers would come with elaborate spiritual questions, and he would simply ask, "Who is asking?" or "Who wants to know?" This relentless return to the questioner rather than the question was an ancient technique refined to its essence. By inquiring into the I, not the thoughts or feelings or the body, but the sense of I itself, practitioners could discover awareness prior to all identification. Ramana lived this understanding so completely that even his presence would sometimes trigger awakening in others. Fact 61. The concept of lineage transmission, an unbroken chain of teaching passing from master to student across centuries, has been central to meditation traditions worldwide. In Tibetan Buddhism, practitioners can trace their meditation instructions back through named teachers, generation by generation, ultimately to the Buddha himself. This lineage isn't just historical documentation but represents a living transmission of realization, each teacher having achieved what they teach before passing it to the next generation. Think of a flame passed from candle to candle across 1,000 years. Each candle burns with the same fire, yet each is unique. The lineage provides more than just techniques, it provides confidence. When you practice a meditation taught by your teacher, who learned from their teacher, who learned from theirs, stretching back across centuries, you're not alone. You're part of a great river of practice, connected to countless others who have walked this path. The lineage says, "This works. Others have gone before you. The way is known." Fact 62. Throughout history, women have been profound meditation masters, though their stories have often been less recorded. Yeshe Tsogyal, the 8th century Tibetan princess who became Padmanabhava's main disciple, achieved complete enlightenment and taught extensively. Makhig Labdran, the 11th century master we mentioned earlier, created unique practices still taught today. Countless unnamed women practiced meditation in convents, caves, and homes, achieving deep realization while often remaining invisible to history's record. In ancient meditation communities, women often faced additional obstacles: cultural restrictions, limited access to formal teaching, household responsibilities. Yet many persevered, finding teachers who would instruct them, carving out time for practice in the margins of daily life, or leaving everything to become nuns and yoginis. Some became renowned teachers themselves. Others practiced in anonymity, their realization known only to themselves and perhaps a small circle. But the fruits of their practice, the kindness, wisdom, and presence they embodied, rippled outward, touching lives we cannot trace. Fact 63. Throughout meditation history, certain individuals chose the path of the hermit, spending not months but years, sometimes decades, in solitary retreat. The Chinese Buddhist Xu Yun lived as a hermit in mountain caves, ultimately living to age 120. The Christian desert mothers and fathers spent lifetimes in the Egyptian desert. These hermits represent meditation practice at its most intensive, most committed, most uncompromising. What drives someone to leave all human contact, all comfort, all familiar routines, and sit alone in a cave for years? The ancient texts speak of a fire that burns in some beings, an insatiable hunger for truth, for liberation, for understanding. For these practitioners, ordinary life feels like sleepwalking. Only in the fierce crucible of solitary retreat, stripped of all distraction, all support, all external reference points, could they forge the depth of realization they sought. Many failed. Some went mad. But those who succeeded returned transformed, radiating a quality of presence that could not be achieved any other way. These masters and their lineages remind us that meditation is not an abstract philosophy but a lived path, walked by real human beings across real centuries. Each one faced doubt, struggled with their minds, persevered through difficulty, and ultimately discovered something true. And that discovery, that awakening, has been passed down, teacher to student, heart to heart, across the generations, arriving now with us. You are part of this lineage, sitting as countless others have sat, breathing as they breathed, seeking what they sought, finding what they found. The eighth segment: meditative states and experiences. As practitioners deepened their meditation over months and years, they discovered that consciousness itself has territories, landscapes, states that few ever visit. Let us explore these inner realms that ancient meditators carefully mapped through direct experience. Fact 64. The Buddhist tradition describes 8 progressive states of meditative absorption called jhanas, from the Pali word meaning to burn or to shine. Each jhana represents a deeper level of concentration and subtler quality of experience. The first jhana is characterized by joy and bliss arising from withdrawal from sensory experience. As practice deepens through the jhanas, even joy and bliss eventually fall away, leaving states of profound equanimity and peace beyond words. Imagine entering the first jhana. After perhaps an hour of patient attention to the breath, suddenly something shifts. The usual sense of effort dissolves. The breath becomes exquisitely pleasurable. Joy arises, not from any external source but seemingly from consciousness itself. The body feels light, sometimes almost as if it's dissolving. This is just the beginning. Ancient practitioners discovered that with continued practice, one could move through progressively subtler states, from joy to profound peace, from peace to infinite space, from space to infinite consciousness, from consciousness to a state so refined it's called neither perception nor non-perception. Each jhana is a world unto itself. Fact 65. Samadhi, a Sanskrit word meaning to bring together or integration, represents the pinnacle of meditative absorption where the distinction between subject and object, between meditator and meditation, completely dissolves. In Samadhi, there is no longer someone practicing meditation. There is only meditation itself, only pure awareness without division or separation. The ancient texts speak of Samadhi with reverence and caution. It is not a trance or unconsciousness but rather a state of heightened clarity where consciousness knows itself directly, without the interference of concepts or the sense of a separate self. A meditator in deep Samadhi might sit for hours without any awareness of time passing. When they emerge, it feels as though only minutes have passed. Some described it as tasting honey. No description can convey the experience to one who hasn't tasted it. Samadhi cannot be forced or grasped. It arises naturally when conditions are right, like a flower opening to the sun. Fact 66. In Zen Buddhism, Satori refers to a sudden awakening experience, a direct, unmediated seeing into one's true nature. Unlike the gradual deepening of jhanic states, Satori is described as instantaneous, like a bubble bursting or a lightning flash. It might last only moments, but those moments transform one's entire understanding of reality. Picture a monk who has been sitting with a koan for months. The question turns over and over in the mind, like a stone polished by water. Then one day, perhaps triggered by the sound of a pebble striking bamboo, or the sight of a flower, or no discernible cause at all, suddenly everything clicks. The boundaries collapse. The question and the questioner are not two. Everything is seen to be intimately, immediately present, without separation. The experience is often accompanied by laughter or tears, a profound sense of recognition. Ah, it was always this. Satori is not the end of practice but a glimpse that motivates deeper cultivation. Fact 67. In deep concentration practices, meditators often encounter what's called nimitta, a Pali word meaning sign or mark. This usually appears as light, perhaps a white or golden disk, a star, a luminous cloud, arising in the mind's eye during meditation. Ancient teachers taught that the appearance of nimitta indicates deepening concentration and can be used as an object to access even deeper states. The nimitta appears unexpectedly. You're sitting, attention steady on the breath, and gradually you notice a soft light in your awareness. At first it's faint, flickering, easily lost if you grasp at it. But with patient, gentle attention, it stabilizes and brightens. Some describe it as more vivid than ordinary light, as though you're seeing pure light for the first time. The ancient meditation manuals provide detailed instructions. When nimitta appears, shift attention from the breath to the light itself. Let it fill your awareness. In this luminous presence, consciousness can access profound states of peace and clarity. Fact 68. Zen Buddhism has a specific term for unusual experiences that can arise during meditation, Markyo, which translates roughly as Devil's Cave or Realm of Ghosts. These experiences, visions, strange sensations, feelings of extraordinary energy, perceptions of past lives, psychic phenomena, were understood not as achievements but as potential distractions. The teaching was simple: note them, don't cling to them, keep practicing. Ancient Zen masters would warn students, you might see Buddhas or demons. You might experience visions of light or descend into darkness. You might feel energy surging through your body or profound emptiness. None of this matters. The Markyo are like clouds passing across the sky of awareness, interesting, sometimes beautiful, sometimes frightening, but ultimately empty phenomena arising from the depths of mind. To become fascinated by them, to seek them or build an identity around them, is to miss the point entirely. The practice is to acknowledge whatever arises and return to presence again and again. Fact 69. Many contemplative traditions describe what Christian mystics called the dark night of the soul and Buddhist practitioners call the arising and passing away of phenomena, a challenging phase where practice becomes difficult, joy disappears, and the meditator experiences doubt, fear, or disillusionment. Ancient teachers recognized this as a crucial stage in development, a kind of spiritual adolescence that must be passed through. This dark night doesn't arise from doing something wrong but from doing something right, from developing enough concentration to see deeply into the impermanent nature of all experience. Everything that once seemed solid and reliable begins to reveal itself as unstable, constantly changing, ultimately unsatisfying. The initial joy and peace of early meditation vanishes. Sitting becomes difficult. Doubt arises. Is this practice worthwhile? Am I wasting my time? Ancient meditation masters taught that this phase, though painful, is actually progress. It's the mind beginning to see clearly, though it hasn't yet seen completely. The instruction was always, keep practicing. Don't turn back now. This darkness precedes a deeper dawn. Fact 70. Advanced practitioners sometimes experience what Buddhist psychology calls cessation, a moment where consciousness itself seems to stop. This isn't fainting or sleep, but rather a complete temporary discontinuation of experience. The meditator sits, deepening into concentration, and then, a blink in consciousness. When awareness returns, only a moment seems to have passed, though it may have been longer. What occurred in that gap cannot be remembered or described, because there was no consciousness present to know it. Ancient Buddhist texts describe this cessation as one of the most profound experiences in meditation, a direct encounter with the possibility of consciousness not being present. For that brief gap, there is no self, no experience, no knowing. Yet something returns. This experience radically challenges our assumptions about consciousness and continuity. It demonstrates experientially what the teachings say intellectually, that consciousness arises and passes away, moment by moment. That what we take to be a solid, continuous self is actually a series of moments of knowing, like frames in a film. Cessation is the gap between frames, the space between notes in music, suddenly perceived. Fact 71. Non-dual awareness, sometimes called Advaita in Sanskrit meaning not to, represents a fundamental shift in how reality is experienced. Rather than experiencing oneself as a subject perceiving objects out there, non-dual awareness is the recognition that awareness and experience are not separate. There is no I here and world there, but rather a single, seamless field of knowing. Imagine this shift. Ordinarily, you feel like you're here, behind your eyes, looking out at a world of objects and other beings. There's a clear boundary, inside and outside. But in non-dual awareness, this boundary dissolves. You don't experience yourself as separate from what you perceive. The seeing and the seen, the hearing and the heard, are recognized as one seamless event. Not that you become the tree you're looking at, but that the dualistic split between perceiver and perceived is revealed as a conceptual overlay, not the direct nature of experience. Ancient practitioners described this as the gateless gate. It's always been this way, but we've imagined a separation that was never truly there. Fact 72. The Buddhist concept of anatta or no self, the direct experiential insight that what we call I or me or self is not a fixed entity but a fluid process, represented one of the most radical discoveries of ancient meditation. Through careful observation in meditation, practitioners discovered that every aspect of experience previously identified as self is actually constantly changing, composed of parts, and dependent on conditions. Consider what happens in deep meditation. You observe, is the body the self? No, it constantly changes, cells dying and being born, sensations arising and passing. Are thoughts the self? No, thoughts come and go without your choosing. You don't control what thought arises next. Is consciousness the self? No, awareness itself fluctuates, brightens and dims, is present or absent. So what is the self? The more carefully one looks, the more this solid sense of I is revealed as a convenient fiction, a story we tell, rather than an actual thing that exists. This realization, far from being nihilistic or frightening, brings profound freedom. If there is no fixed self to protect, defend, or improve, what's left? Just this, the flowing, changing, interconnected process of life itself, expressing itself as this particular human being, in this particular moment. These experiences and insights reveal meditation as not just a relaxation technique, but a profound investigation into the nature of consciousness itself. The ancient practitioners were cartographers of inner space, explorers of awareness, scientists of the mind. Their discoveries await anyone willing to sit still, pay attention, and look deeply. And perhaps in your own practice, in your own quiet moments, some of these territories are already becoming familiar. These landscapes of consciousness that have always been here, always waiting to be discovered. The next segment is meditation and society. Meditation was never practiced in isolation from the world, but woven into the fabric of ancient societies, shaping how communities resolved conflicts, how leaders governed, and how ordinary life was transformed into sacred practice. Fact 73. In ancient Buddhist kingdoms across Asia, monks trained in meditation often served as mediators in conflicts between families, villages, or even kingdoms. Their cultivation of equanimity and compassion, combined with their position outside worldly power structures, made them trusted intermediaries. Kings would invite respected meditation masters to help resolve disputes, understanding that someone who had trained the mind in peace could help others find peaceful solutions. Picture a village torn by conflict, families feuding over land, old wounds reopened, anger threatening to spill into violence. The elders invite a meditation teacher from the nearby monastery. The monk arrives, sits with both parties, listens deeply without taking sides. Through the monk's presence, calm, unhurried, free of reactivity, something in the room begins to shift. The monk might say little, but the quality of listening, the spacious awareness cultivated through years of meditation practice, creates a container where healing becomes possible. Ancient societies understood that those who had transformed their own inner conflicts were best equipped to help others transform theirs. Fact 74. The concept of the philosopher king, a ruler who governed with wisdom cultivated through contemplative practice, appeared across ancient cultures. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius practiced Stoic meditation and wrote his Meditations. Emperor Ashoka of India, after witnessing the horrors of war, devoted himself to Buddhist meditation and ruled according to Dharma principles. In China, Confucian and Taoist meditation practices were considered essential for wise governance. These enlightened rulers understood that external power without inner cultivation leads to tyranny, while inner cultivation without engagement leads to escapism. They rose before dawn to meditate, seeking clarity before making decisions that would affect millions. They contemplated impermanence, which kept them humble despite their power. They cultivated compassion, which informed their policies. Ancient political philosophy held that the quality of a ruler's consciousness directly affected the quality of their rule, that a mind trained in meditation would naturally govern with justice, wisdom, and care for all beings. Fact 75. Pilgrimage routes across Asia became forms of moving meditation practiced by millions over centuries. The Camino de Santiago in Spain, walked by Christian pilgrims since the 9th century. The 88-temple Shikoku pilgrimage in Japan, a 750-mile walking meditation circling the island. Pilgrimages to Mount Kailash, Bodh Gaya, Jerusalem. These long journeys on foot became extended meditation practices, each step a prayer, each day an opportunity for contemplation. Imagine walking for weeks or months, your only possessions on your back, moving through landscapes that constantly change yet following a path walked by countless others before you. The rhythm of walking, left foot, right foot, breath flowing, becomes a natural meditation. Blisters form and heal. Weather changes. The mind cycles through boredom, insight, frustration, wonder. Pilgrimage teaches what sitting meditation teaches, that everything arises and passes, that we can be present with discomfort, that the journey itself is the destination. Ancient pilgrims understood they were walking not just toward a holy site but toward transformation, step by step, mile by mile. Fact 76. The practice of alms rounds in Buddhist traditions transformed begging into a profound meditation practice. Each morning, monks would walk slowly and mindfully through villages, carrying their bowls, accepting whatever food was offered without preference or judgment. This practice cultivated humility and non-attachment while creating a living connection between monastic and lay communities. Picture the scene: dawn light spreading across a small village. Monks emerge from the monastery in a silent, single-file line, their bowls held at chest height. They walk with exquisite slowness, each step fully conscious, eyes cast downward in humility. Villagers stand outside their homes, waiting with offerings of rice, vegetables, fruit. As each monk passes, they stop, and food is placed in the bowl. No words are exchanged. The monk doesn't thank, the opportunity to give is itself the gift. This daily ritual, practiced for over 2,500 years, taught monks non-attachment to food preferences and dependence on community. It taught lay people the joy of generosity. The entire practice was meditation in motion, mindful, deliberate, connecting awakening and everyday life. Fact 77. Ancient meditation traditions structured retreat periods with precise timing. The 3-year, 3-month, 3-day retreat in Tibetan Buddhism being perhaps the most demanding. During a traditional 3-year retreat, practitioners remained in complete seclusion, maintaining intensive meditation practice for 12 to 16 hours daily. These retreats provided conditions for profound transformation impossible in ordinary circumstances. Imagine entering a retreat space, knowing you won't leave for 3 years. The door closes behind you. No television, no internet, no phone calls, no newspapers. Just a small room, meditation instructions, and time. Vast expanses of time. The first weeks might feel interminable. Then gradually, something shifts. The mind, stripped of its usual distractions, begins to reveal its deeper layers. Patterns of thought become visible. Emotional knots begin to loosen. The quality of awareness deepens and stabilizes. Ancient practitioners emerged from such retreats fundamentally changed, not because they learned new concepts, but because they had time to digest and embody the teachings completely, to sit with themselves so thoroughly that transformation became inevitable. Fact 78. Monastery rules and precepts in ancient traditions were not arbitrary restrictions but precise supports for meditation practice. The Buddhist monastic code, compiled 2,500 years ago, contains over 200 rules covering everything from meal times to posture to speech. These rules created a container of simplicity and ethical clarity within which meditation could flourish. The ancient rulemakers understood something subtle, that decision-making depletes mental energy. If monks had to decide what to wear, when to eat, how to interact, the mind would constantly be engaged in preferences and negotiations. But with clear, simple rules, wear these robes, eat at this time, speak only when necessary, the mental energy normally spent on decisions could be redirected toward practice. The rules also prevented conflicts that distract from meditation. By regulating communal life precisely, the ancient monasteries created islands of simplicity in which practitioners could devote themselves fully to the inner work of awakening. Fact 79. The practice of noble silence, extended periods when no unnecessary speech occurred, was central to many ancient meditation communities. Some monasteries maintained silence except for certain hours. Some practitioners took vows of silence for years. This wasn't punishment but recognition that much of our mental energy dissipates through speech, and that silence naturally deepens meditation. In noble silence, walking from the meditation hall to your room becomes a meditation. Eating breakfast becomes a meditation. Even eye contact takes on new significance, becomes a form of acknowledgement and communication more subtle than words. The ancient practitioners discovered that the urge to speak often arises from anxiety, from wanting to fill space, from the ego seeking to assert itself. In sustained silence, these urges arise and pass away without being indulged. Gradually, a different quality of being emerges, more present, more peaceful, less driven by the constant need to comment on and react to experience. Silence, the ancients knew, is not the absence of communication but a different, deeper form of it. Fact 80. The Zen principle, a day without work is a day without food, integrated meditation with manual labor. Monks didn't just sit in meditation all day, they maintained the monastery through cooking, cleaning, gardening, construction. This work, performed with the same quality of attention as sitting meditation, taught that awakening happens not apart from ordinary life but within it. Picture a Zen monastery kitchen. A monk chops vegetables, slowly, precisely, the knife meeting the cutting board with a gentle rhythm. Each movement complete in itself. No rushing to finish, no mental wandering to past or future. Just this, knife, carrot, board, breath. The ancient masters taught that how you chop vegetables reveals the quality of your meditation. If your sitting practice is deep and stable, your work will be unhurried and thorough. If your mind is scattered in meditation, your work will be sloppy and distracted. By making work itself a meditation, ancient monasteries dissolved the artificial boundary between practice time and everyday life, revealing that every moment is an opportunity for presence. Fact 81. Ancient teaching methods varied widely but often included koans, paradoxical questions, teaching stories, direct pointing, the teacher pointing at the moon rather than talking about it, and sometimes prolonged silence or seemingly harsh methods to shock students out of habitual patterns. The goal was not to transfer information but to catalyze direct realization. A student comes to the master with a question: what is Buddha nature? The master hits the student with a stick, or says, 3 pounds of flax, or remains completely silent, or throws the student out of the room. These responses seem bizarre, even violent, to the modern mind. But ancient teachers understood that intellectual answers feed the conceptual mind, keeping the student trapped in thinking about reality rather than experiencing it directly. The unexpected response, the hit, the absurd statement, the silence, can create a gap in the mind's constant commentary, a momentary opening where direct seeing becomes possible. The teaching wasn't in the stick or the words, but in the space they created, the possibility they pointed toward beyond all concepts. And so we see that ancient meditation traditions never imagined practice as separate from life, but as a way of transforming all of life into practice. Walking became meditation. Work became meditation. Eating, speaking, governing, resolving conflicts, all could be performed with the awareness cultivated in formal sitting practice. The goal was not to escape the world, but to engage it fully, consciously, with wisdom and compassion. Perhaps this is the gift ancient meditation offers us still, not a technique for temporary relaxation, but a way of being fully present with each moment of this precious, fleeting life. If you enjoy this journey into ancient meditation, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. Obstacles and refinements. The ancient meditation masters were deeply practical. They knew that the path of meditation is not always smooth, that every practitioner encounters obstacles. Rather than viewing these difficulties as failures, they mapped them carefully, developing specific antidotes and refinements that could help practitioners work skillfully with whatever arose. Fact 82. Buddhist meditation psychology identified 5 primary hindrances that obstruct practice: sensory desire, aversion or ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry, and doubt. Ancient teachers taught that these 5 patterns appear in every meditator's practice and that recognizing them is the first step toward freedom from them. Each hindrance has its own texture, its own way of pulling us away from presence. Desire whispers, "This moment isn't enough, I need something more." Aversion complains, "This discomfort is unbearable, I need it to be different." Sloth creates a fog of drowsiness that clouds awareness. Restlessness fills the body with agitation, the mind with jumping thoughts. Doubt questions, "Is this practice worthwhile? Am I doing it right? Maybe I should try something else." The ancient masters taught practitioners to recognize these states without judgment, not as personal failings but as universal patterns of mind that arise and pass like weather. Simply naming them, "This is desire, this is doubt," begins to loosen their grip. Fact 83. Physical pain in meditation was one of the most common obstacles ancient practitioners faced, especially during extended sitting. Different traditions developed different approaches. Some taught working through pain to develop equanimity, others taught adjusting posture to prevent injury. The goal was not to prove toughness but to develop a wise relationship with discomfort. Ancient teachers distinguished between the pain of purification, the temporary discomfort as the body adjusts to sitting still, and the pain of injury which signals genuine harm. The first should be met with patience and equanimity, the second requires wisdom and adjustment. They taught practitioners to scan the body, to notice where pain was sharp and stabbing versus dull and achy, to understand the difference between muscle stretching and joint straining. This careful attention to physical sensation became a profound teaching in itself, that we can be present with discomfort without being overwhelmed by it, that pain and suffering are not the same thing. Pain is sensation, suffering is our resistance to sensation. Fact 84. The term monkey mind, a restless, unsettled quality of awareness that jumps from thought to thought like a monkey swinging through trees, captured perfectly the challenge every beginning meditator faces. Ancient Chinese and Indian texts both used simian metaphors to describe the untrained mind's tendency toward constant distraction. But the ancient teachers offered encouragement. The monkey mind is not a problem to be solved, but the natural state of an untrained awareness. A wild horse doesn't become tame through violence, but through patient, consistent training. Similarly, the restless mind gradually settles not through forcing or fighting, but through gentle, repeated invitations to return to presence. Again and again, the mind wanders, again and again, without judgment, we guide it back. This returning, thousands of times in a single sitting, is not failure. This returning is the practice. Like training a puppy, we do it with kindness, patience, and good humor. The monkey eventually learns to sit still, not because we've destroyed its nature, but because we've trained it gently, persistently, with love. Fact 85. Ancient meditation traditions emphasize patience, understanding that deep transformation happens gradually, not overnight. Teachers would tell students, practice as if you have your whole life ahead of you. The goal was not to achieve something quickly, but to develop a practice sustainable over decades. There's a Zen saying, after enlightenment, the laundry. Meaning that even after profound insights, life continues. Practice continues. The ancients understood that meditation is not like taking medicine where you expect quick results. It's more like planting a garden. You prepare soil, plant seeds, water patiently, and trust the natural process of growth. Some days you'll see no change. Some days you might feel you're going backward. But if you maintain consistent practice over months and years, you look back and realize how much has transformed. The person who sat down 5 years ago is not the person sitting now. The change happened so gradually you didn't notice it day to day, yet it's undeniable. Ancient teachers taught, trust the process, be patient with yourself, and remember that the practice itself is already the fruition. Fact 86. For drowsiness in meditation, a hindrance that has troubled practitioners since ancient times, teachers developed specific antidotes. Walking meditation instead of sitting. Splashing cold water on the face. Meditating with eyes open rather than closed. Standing meditation. Adjusting the time of practice to when natural alertness is the highest. The ancient masters observed that drowsiness often arose not from tiredness but from resistance, the mind's subtle way of avoiding presence by checking out. But they also recognized that genuine fatigue required rest, not forced wakefulness. They taught discernment. Is this the heavy, foggy drowsiness of avoidance, or the genuine tiredness of a body needing sleep? For the first, they recommended energizing techniques, opening eyes wide, taking deep breaths, standing up. For the second, they simply said, sleep. The body's needs are not obstacles to practice but part of practice. A well-rested practitioner meditates more effectively than one fighting exhaustion. Even rest, approached mindfully, becomes part of the path. Fact 87. Working with difficult emotions in meditation required a middle path between suppression and indulgence. Ancient teachers taught not to push emotions away, which only strengthens them, nor to drown in them, which reinforces habitual patterns. Instead, they taught to observe emotions with spacious awareness, feeling them fully while not being controlled by them. When anger arises in meditation, the ancient instruction was, notice the heat in the body, the tension in the jaw, the quality of thoughts. But don't feed the anger by mentally rehearsing grievances. Don't suppress it by forcing it down. Simply feel it, as purely as possible, without the story. Gradually, practitioners discover something extraordinary, that emotions, when fully felt without resistance or indulgence, move through like clouds across the sky. They arise, peak, and dissolve. The problem is never the emotion itself but our relationship to it, trying to hold on to pleasant feelings, pushing away unpleasant ones. Ancient meditation taught a radical acceptance. All emotions are welcome, none need to be permanent, and our true nature is the awareness that holds them all. Fact 88. The Buddha's teaching of the middle way emerged directly from his meditation experience. After years of extreme asceticism nearly killed him, he realized that neither self-indulgence nor self-mortification leads to awakening. The path is found between extremes, not too tight, not too loose, like tuning the strings of a lute to just the right tension. This middle way applies to everything in meditation practice. Not trying so hard you create tension, not relaxing so much you drift into dullness. Not forcing concentration, not allowing complete distraction. Not denying difficult experiences, not seeking pleasant ones. The ancient metaphor of the lute strings captures this perfectly. Too tight and the string breaks, too loose and it makes no sound. But tuned just right, it produces beautiful music. Meditation requires this same balance, alert but relaxed, focused but spacious, disciplined but kind. Learning to find this balance is itself a profound practice, one that extends from the meditation cushion into all of life. Fact 89. The concept of right effort in Buddhist meditation teaching distinguished between helpful and unhelpful types of effort. Right effort isn't about forcing or pushing but about consistent, balanced engagement. It's the effort that prevents unwholesome states from arising, abandons those that have arisen, cultivates wholesome states, and maintains those already present. Ancient teachers compared right effort to the way you would carry a bowl of oil. Too careless and you spill it, too tense and your hands shake and you spill it. The right effort is relaxed alertness, caring but not anxious. In meditation, wrong effort looks like grimacing, holding the breath, gritting teeth, trying to force the mind to be still. Right effort looks like gentle persistence, returning again and again to the object of meditation without harsh self-judgment. It's the difference between trying to trap a butterfly by grabbing at it, which only makes it fly away, and simply sitting still with an open hand, allowing it to land naturally. The ancients understood that awakening cannot be seized or forced, it can only be invited through the right kind of effort, persistent but gentle, committed but spacious. Fact 90. Ancient teachers recognized that meditation instructions needed to adapt to individual circumstances, injury, illness, age, or physical limitations. They developed modifications allowing anyone to practice. Chair sitting for those who couldn't sit on the floor, lying down meditation for the bedridden, walking meditation for those who found sitting painful, even meditation in all postures for those whose bodies required constant movement. The essence of meditation, ancient masters taught, is not posture but awareness. While the crossed-legged lotus position became iconic, it was never meant to be universal or mandatory. A practitioner with knee injuries was taught to sit in a chair, spine erect, feet flat on the floor. Someone confined to bed could practice lying down, using techniques to maintain alertness. The elderly were given cushions and backrests. Those in pain were taught to make pain itself the object of meditation. The ancient tradition was far more flexible and compassionate than we sometimes imagine. The teaching was always, work with what you have, not with some idealized version of practice. Your body, your circumstances, your limitations, these are not obstacles to meditation but the very ground where your practice unfolds. The ancient masters' wisdom about obstacles reveals their deep compassion and practical understanding. They knew that everyone struggles, everyone encounters difficulties, everyone doubts. They didn't present meditation as a perfect path walked by perfect people, but as a messy, human journey of gradually learning to be present with whatever life brings. Their refinements and adjustments weren't concessions but recognitions, that the path must accommodate reality, that practice must meet us where we are. And so when you encounter obstacles in your own practice, and you will, know that you're walking a path walked by millions before you, that your struggles are not unique, that the ancient teachers foresaw exactly what you're experiencing and left guidance for working with it skillfully, compassionately, patiently. Our last segment, the legacy and timeless wisdom. As our journey through ancient meditation practices draws to a close, let us reflect on how this precious wisdom traveled across continents and centuries, survived tremendous challenges, and ultimately offers us something timeless, a gift that belongs to all humanity. Fact 91. Meditation practices spread across Asia along ancient trade routes, particularly the Silk Road, which connected China, India, Central Asia, and the Middle East for over 1,500 years. Buddhist monks traveled with merchant caravans, bringing meditation teachings to new lands. Cave monasteries dotted the Silk Road, serving as rest stops where traders encountered meditation practice. Maritime trade routes similarly carried meditation from India to Southeast Asia, Indonesia, and eventually to China, Korea, and Japan by sea. Picture a caravan crossing the desert, camels laden with silk and spices, merchants calculating profits, and among them, a handful of monks in simple robes, carrying nothing but begging bowls and teachings. In oasis towns, these monks would stop, sometimes for weeks or months, sharing meditation techniques with locals. They learned local languages, adapted teachings to local contexts, building bridges between cultures. The Silk Road became a highway not just of goods but of consciousness, of spiritual technology, of practices that could transform human suffering into peace. Meditation traveled through extreme climates, across vast distances, carried by people who believed these practices were too precious to keep in one place. Fact 92. The translation of meditation texts from Sanskrit to Chinese, then to Tibetan, Japanese, and other languages, was one of history's great intellectual achievements. Beginning around the 1st century CE, teams of translators worked for centuries to render Buddhist meditation texts into new languages. This wasn't simple translation but required deep understanding of practice, as many meditation terms had no equivalents in the target languages. New words had to be invented, philosophical concepts carefully explained. These ancient translators were themselves accomplished meditators who understood that they were translating not just words but experiences, not just concepts but living practices that could transform lives. When translating the Sanskrit word dhyana into Chinese, they created the word Chan. When Chan traveled to Japan, it became Zen. Each translation was an act of cultural transmission, of preserving and adapting ancient wisdom for new contexts. Some translators spent decades on single texts, checking their translations against their own meditation experience, ensuring that the practices described would actually work for practitioners reading in the new language. This painstaking work preserved meditation teachings through centuries and across vast cultural differences. Fact 93. Meditation traditions survived remarkable challenges: political persecution, foreign invasions, the destruction of monasteries, the suppression of spiritual practices. Buddhism nearly disappeared from India, its birthplace, around the 13th century CE, yet survived in Sri Lanka, Tibet, China, and Southeast Asia. During China's Cultural Revolution, many meditation masters were imprisoned or killed, yet teachings were preserved by practitioners who continued secret practices. Again and again, meditation proved resilient, preserved by people who valued it enough to risk everything. In Tibet, when Chinese occupation began in the 1950s, great meditation masters fled across the Himalayas, carrying texts and teachings into exile. Some elderly lamas, too frail to travel, entrusted their teachings to younger students who escaped. Entire lineages were preserved in the memories of these refugees, passed orally until they could again be written down. In Japan during World War II, when resources were scarce, monasteries survived through the dedication of monks who went hungry rather than abandon their practice. Throughout history, meditation survived not because institutions were indestructible but because individuals decided the teachings were worth preserving, worth practicing, worth passing on even at great personal cost. If you enjoy this journey into ancient wisdom, please take a moment to like this video. It helps others discover these calming stories. And if you'd like to continue listening to more relaxing content like this, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. Fact 94. Meditation's influence on art has been profound and enduring. Tibetan sand mandalas, intricate geometric designs created grain by grain over days, then ceremonially destroyed, express impermanence and non-attachment. Japanese calligraphy performed in meditative states captures spontaneity and presence in brush strokes. Chinese landscape paintings created by Taoist and Buddhist artists attempted to express the ineffable states experienced in meditation. These weren't decorative arts but visual teachings, ways of communicating meditation insights to those who had not yet experienced them directly. An ancient calligrapher would prepare for hours before lifting the brush, sitting in meditation, calming the breath, emptying the mind. Then, in a sudden fluid movement, the character would be written in a single breath, the brush dancing across paper. The result captured something beyond the meaning of the words. It captured the quality of consciousness from which it emerged. Zen gardens arranged rocks to evoke mountain peaks emerging from clouds of raked gravel, inviting viewers into meditative contemplation. Every element precisely placed yet appearing natural, effortless. These arts taught that meditation transforms not just inner experience but how we engage with the world, how we create, how we express the inexpressible. Fact 95. Music and chanting became meditation practices across cultures. Gregorian chants in Christian monasteries, their sustained tones creating acoustic resonance in stone cathedrals. Buddhist chanting of sutras, the rhythm of recitation calming the mind. Vedic recitation of sacred texts, passed down orally with such precision that recordings from different lineages separated by centuries sound nearly identical. Sufi dhikr ceremonies with repetitive chanting and music inducing trance states. Sound itself became a vehicle for meditation. The ancient practitioners understood that sound affects consciousness directly. Certain frequencies, certain rhythms, certain patterns of vibration can entrain the mind towards stillness or ecstasy. Gregorian monks discovered that chanting together synchronized their breathing, their heartbeats, creating a field of collective consciousness. Tibetan monks created overtone chanting where a single voice produces multiple pitches simultaneously, the harmonics vibrating through the body. These weren't performances but practices. The chanting was meditation, each repetition an opportunity for presence, each tone an offering, each session a journey into sound and silence. Fact 96. Perhaps most remarkably, similar meditation discoveries emerged independently in unconnected cultures across the globe. Indigenous Australian Aboriginal peoples practiced dardiri, deep, contemplative listening. Native American vision quests involved extended periods of solitary fasting and meditation. African traditions included trance states induced through drumming and dance. The universality of meditation suggests something profound, that the human mind, regardless of culture, when turned inward with patience and discipline, discovers similar territories, similar truths. This convergence points to something inherent in consciousness itself. We all have minds that can be trained, awareness that can be refined, peace that can be accessed beneath the surface turbulence of thoughts. Ancient meditation wasn't invented but discovered, like different explorers reaching the same mountain peak from different sides, each describing what they found in their own language, through their own cultural lens, yet all describing the same fundamental landscape of human consciousness. This suggests that meditation's truths are not cultural constructs but direct experiences available to any human being willing to look inward deeply enough. Fact 97. In recent decades, scientific research has begun validating what ancient meditators knew through direct experience. Brain imaging shows that meditation changes neural structure, increasing gray matter in areas associated with learning, memory, and emotional regulation. Studies demonstrate reduced stress hormones, improved immune function, enhanced attention span. Ancient claims about meditation's benefits, which for millennia rested solely on testimonial evidence, are now being verified by rigorous scientific methods. What's remarkable is not that science validates ancient wisdom, but how closely the scientific findings match what practitioners discovered through inner exploration thousands of years ago. Ancient teachers said meditation strengthens attention. Now we can measure increased activation in attention networks. They said it cultivates compassion. Now we can observe enhanced activity in empathy-related brain regions. They said it reduces suffering. Now we can measure decreased cortisol and improved well-being markers. The ancient explorers of consciousness, without microscopes or brain scanners, using only sustained attention and careful self-observation, mapped inner territory with stunning accuracy. Science adds credibility and detail, but the fundamental insights were already known. Fact 98. The genius of meditation as a technology of consciousness is that it requires no special equipment, no expensive tools, no rare resources. A human body, a mind, and the willingness to pay attention, these are the only requirements. Whether you're wealthy or poor, educated or not, young or old, you can practice meditation. This democratic accessibility helps explain its spread across cultures and its survival through millennia. It cannot be monopolized, patented, or controlled. It belongs to anyone willing to practice. Ancient meditation teachers sometimes called this the pathless path, meaning you don't need to go anywhere, acquire anything, become anyone other than who you are. The journey is toward recognizing what's already here. Your breath is always with you. Your awareness never leaves you. The present moment costs nothing and is always available. This elegant simplicity is also profound sophistication. Meditation uses the mind to train the mind, awareness to refine awareness, consciousness to explore consciousness. The tool and the object of investigation are one. Nothing external is needed because everything necessary is already present. Fact 99. What all ancient meditators discovered, across different traditions and different eras, was the eternal present moment. The recognition that peace is not found in past or future, in achievement or acquisition, but in this very moment, exactly as it is. This isn't a concept to believe, but a direct experience to realize. Every meditation session is an opportunity to discover this timeless now, which has always been here, always will be here, beneath the endless stream of thoughts and worries. The present moment, the ancients taught, is a doorway to something infinite. When we're fully present, not judging, not planning, not remembering, just here, we touch something beyond time. A single moment, fully experienced, contains eternity. This is what the meditation masters meant by enlightenment or awakening, not a mystical state requiring years of effort, but the simple, radical recognition of what's already true, that this moment is complete, lacking nothing, sufficient unto itself. All the teachings, all the practices, all the techniques point toward this one discovery. And it's available right now. It's always available right now. Fact 100. And finally, perhaps the most important fact of all, your own practice, your own meditation, whatever form it takes, makes you part of this ancient lineage. When you sit and pay attention to your breath, when you notice a thought and gently return to presence, when you bring awareness to this very moment, you're doing exactly what meditators have done for thousands of years. You're part of this great river of practice, this unbroken stream of consciousness exploring consciousness, humans across millennia sitting in stillness, all seeking the same peace, all discovering the same truth. You are not separate from this tradition, you are its continuation. The ancient masters sit with you. Their discoveries live in your practice. When you meditate, you honor not just their memory but their realization, carrying it forward into this moment, into your life, into the world. The lineage doesn't end with the great teachers of the past. It flows through you, right now, in this breath, in this moment of awareness. You are both the inheritor of this ancient wisdom and its living embodiment. And perhaps someday, someone will reflect on the early practitioners of this era, who kept these practices alive, who adapted them to modern life, who refused to let this precious wisdom be lost, and they will honor you as part of the unbroken chain of those who practiced, persevered, and passed on the gift of meditation to future generations. And so our journey through ancient meditation practices comes to rest, right here, in this moment, in this breath, in this awareness that has always been present, always waiting to be recognized. May you find peace in your practice. May the ancient wisdom live through you. May all beings everywhere discover the stillness that lies at the heart of all experience. Rest now, simply rest, in the eternal present moment, breathing, aware, at peace. I hope you sleep well. Good night.